Having watched other videos in this series, you'll be aware that developing a medical device is a complex business. It's a business where there's many opportunities to experience pain. And we're here to try and help you avoid as many of those painful moments as we can. How would it be if you had a straightforward route to get you from here to there? What would you do armed with that? In this bite-sized video, we'll continue our exploration of the map of medical device development. Effort and costs rise significantly as you progress, whilst the risks of failure are mitigated. You go from high risk and uncertainty in the early phases through to a defined risk profile. This time we're taking a look at the second of 4 phases that every project goes through: develop. Design review. Confirm you're on the right track and make sound project decisions based on concrete data. Search for our video, The 4 W's of Design Review, to learn more about these. Manage the project. You'll want to be clear about how you, the project team, work together. Procedures you'll follow in day-to-day execution of your project plan. Many project teams schedule regular reviews to check they're on course, that the data supports continuing along that path. So, pause. Take stock of where you've got to. Issue resolution. Consider how you'll deal with changes and issues. How will they be described, decisions made, and actions implemented? Issues won't just be design related. There'll also be things like changes in the skills, people, and resources you've got. They also impact upon project delivery. It typically looks something like this. Understand what the issue or change really means. Assess its scope and drivers. Examine the impact upon your endpoint and planned activities. Identify any additional things that will need to be done as a consequence. Decide whether to accept the change or reject it, as well as if it results in returning to an earlier project phase. Purchasing controls. FDA and others expect you to have control over what you buy, from whom, and against what requirement. This is all about having a process to do that, especially the more critical the thing or service is that you're buying. Supplier Evaluation. Again, and particularly for the more critical things, you'll need to have a process you follow to identify, evaluate, select, and manage your suppliers. Design qualification sets out to answer, does the design I've created answer the design inputs I've written down? As you embark upon developing concepts, document what's happening when it happens. This gives you so many benefits, not least documenting the birth of your IP and providing you with data you can rely upon when you're making decisions. And it does not stifle creativity. Design outputs essentially describe your frozen device design. It allows you to move forward to verification and validation. It's things like assembly drawings, specifications, test results, risk analyses. At some point, you must legally protect your IP, or you won't be able to disclose it safely, be recognised in law as its owner, profit from its commercialisation, prevent or discourage its unauthorised use by others. Protection could be in the form of a patent, copyright, design or brand protection. This is a very complex legal area that's rightly the domain of patent attorneys. However, to get you started, the European Patent Office have some very useful materials. It's often the case with medical devices that what they look like can be covered by design protection, as long as it is really new and has individual character, that is, it doesn't mimic something already in existence, then you can assert a design right. There are 2 choices here. You can seek formal registration, or you can rely upon rights provided by it simply being in use, a bit like copyright. The Design and Process Risk Analysis stop has you identifying and evaluating risks related to the device design, as well as its likely manufacture, assembly, distribution, recycling and disposal processes, identifying ways to mitigate risks. One of the challenges here is balancing these requirements with the needs of the user. As you might expect, this stop is intimately linked to the risk management and human factors tracks. Design iteration sees your device design evolving to incorporate risk mitigations, design evaluation, bench testing and usability testing of design iterations to see how well they deliver against specific requirements and risk mitigations. Again, this stop is intimately linked to risk management, human factors, and IP tracks. They all have a part to play. It's usual to go through this loop a number of times as you learn more about how your design performs, especially in the hands of real users. Consideration of manufacturing and assembly processes should start at the very early stops. However, here is where these processes will become concrete, with the knowledge that they can be used to build devices for upcoming verification and validation steps. Use-related risk analysis. Reduce project risk by identifying and mitigating use-related risks before they arise. This stop is intimately linked with design development and IP tracks. Usability evaluation. Uncover strengths and errors in your design with real users before it becomes fixed. Often a series of short usability and readability tests, the results of which are gold dust for the designers. Risk analysis has two parts. Firstly, identifying potential risks for the design, manufacture, assembly, distribution, use and disposal of the product. The second part is evaluating each of these against the hazards and harms I mentioned just now. You'll prioritize these risks based on their probability and the severity of the harm that could result. This allows you to focus on addressing the most important ones first. Now that you understand the risks, you'll need to develop ways to mitigate them as far as possible. Far too often people jump straight to putting a warning or legal wording in the user manual. This is just not good enough. Regulators in the US and EU expect you to look at design changes first, then protective measures such as alarms and limits. Only if neither of these can be done should information in a manual be considered. These mitigations must be tested to see if they work and whether they introduce new risks or use errors into the device design. The results should feed back into design controls and human factors evaluation. Building on the information you gathered earlier, competitor benchmarking assesses the position of your product's competitors, their market access, opportunities for your product and threats to its success. Clinical design sets out the details of your plan for clinical investigations that are needed to plug the gaps you've identified. You will need to ensure that you plan for regulatory authority and ethics approval of your clinical studies, as well as their setup, execution, analysis and reporting. During the development phase, you execute your planned clinical program, which may include a number of investigations across several countries, all designed to answer the scientific questions required to demonstrate your product's clinical safety and efficacy. This stop will take longer than you expect, so it's vital to get started early with identifying study centres, study investigators, talking with regulatory authorities, and initiating ethical review. As you watch this video, you'll have started to think about how you can go about addressing each of these steps properly, making the best of each part of your journey. You may now want to get some guidance to turn your thoughts into concrete actions. Now that we're coming to the close of this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up to our website, or follow us on social media so you're the first to know when new content is available. Thanks for watching. Remember to send us your feedback and comments.